Hello, everyone. This is Ramani and Abhay from the Boston office. We are leaders in training for our hiring initiative. We've been NextJumper since 2016, and we are also talking partners. So I'll go give you some overview and context on how we hire and how our day looks like. Basically, our top of the funnel consists of hiring from a lot of top schools, and most of these schools are on the East Coast. And we basically have the hiring event, which is called as Super Saturday. Super Saturday happens twice every year, once in spring and once in fall. Every year, we have around 5,000 applications and candidates who apply to NextJump. And these 5,000 applications go through what we call our pre-screening process. By the end of the pre-screening process, we select the top 50 candidates and invite them to our hiring event, which is Super Saturday. A little bit of a context. Some of you would have already seen this in the culture tour about our history of hiring. Around 10 years ago, we had a phase at NextJump for our hiring where we had a bunch of smart engineers who had this mindset that I'm not arrogant, but I'm just way better than you. We had a phase where we like to call these guys brilliant jerks, where we had a very bad environment set up in NextJump, and the culture was becoming very bad very fast. So what we learned from that instances was we have to hire for people with the right mindset. How do we define right mindset though? We call anyone who has a student mindset as the right mindset. People who have humility, people who are grateful, people who are responsible, who are willing to invest in loss and are not afraid to fail, versus people who feel entitled, people who feel they know it all and are not ready to take feedback. Sorry. Something that we like to say in our hiring world is we hire for not who you are today, but who you can grow into and become. We do look for skills as a part of our hiring process, but what we feel is more important is the character, because we feel character is core to who you are as a person. And for example, consider two candidates. Candidate A, who has a very high tech skill, but is not coachable. And candidate B, on the other hand, who has lower tech skill and is coachable. Our thesis is that candidate B is better than candidate A. And how do we define coachability? Coachability is the demonstrated ability to take and act upon the feedback, which basically means that this shows up in their actions and this shows up on the day of Super Saturday. But how does the day look? What do we do during this Super Saturday? Ramani will walk you through that.
So basically, when it comes to Super Saturday, it has evolved a lot throughout the years. And one of the biggest thing that we have changed about Super Saturday is we moved away from completely relying on one-on-one interviews and have designed the day to look for, and even like the way that we have put the interviews and everything in place is to look for demonstrated actions. What it means is, like Abhay mentioned, we look for, instead of just like talking and getting the data points from the candidates, we actually look if they put these things and take feedback and act upon it. We look for demonstrated actions instead. So something that we do is we use two apps during the day of Super Saturday. The first one is the feedback app, which you all are quite familiar with right now. We use this app to give feedback to candidates on Team Challenge, which is kind of similar to what you will be going through on Friday. So you'll get a better sense of how that works. All the data in the feedback app is anonymous, and we do share this feedback with the candidates during the day. On the other hand, we have the hiring app, which NextJumpers used to input any interview notes or any interactions that they had with the candidate. On contrary, this data is not anonymous, and we do not share this with the candidates. It's strictly for internal use. While all this is going on, in the background, we have a dedicated team who are like constantly collecting and analyzing all these data that's coming from these two apps. We call them the war room team. So that's a picture of a war room where all the NextJumpers gather at the end of the day to see all this data and analyze it and make a decision on whether to hire the candidate or not. So this is a picture from the war room from the most recent Super Saturday we had in March. As you can see, we put all the candidate information on a big wall, which is like right behind you guys in Penway. And how it starts is all the candidates are empty with just the candidate image. and some details about their resume, whether they are applying for a full-time job, intern, some tiny details about them. And we start filling these sheets up with 2 important steps. The first one is what we call the system one, which is basically what does your gut say about the candidate from your observations throughout the day. So all the next jumpers are given green and red stickers, and all of us, some 50 to 60 of us together, go up to the wall and put those stickers on the candidates that we have interacted with or observed. So this happens in a span of like 4 to 5 minutes. And once that is done, we expose the data that the war room team has been working on and has collected. So it's a closer snapshot of how the how the candidate sheet looks. So if you can see, the system one votes says this candidate is a B candidate. So basically, all the candidates who got green stickers are A's. All the candidates who got all red stickers are C's, and the candidates who got a mixture of like red and greens, we call them the B candidates. So this candidate is a B candidate, and at the bottom are the data that the war room team had been like working on and normalizing it. So basically, there are a lot of feedback ratings and there are a lot of scores from the hiring app. So the team basically works the whole day to normalize this into A, B, and C. So according to this, the data says from all the candidates who have attended Super Saturday, this candidate was an A on skills and B on coachability. So this is a quick overview of how Super Saturday runs. If you're curious and want to learn more about it, we do have VIP observers who come and observe us during the day. So you can let us know if you're interested. So we're going to quickly run you through and give you a demo of how I would use the hiring app on the day of Super Saturday. So as soon as I log in, I get a good overview of what are the different recruiting events that are happening in NextJump in the UK, in the US, and in the past. This also includes any interview processes that are happening in the campuses and the Super Saturday itself. So I'm going to go into the most recent Super Saturday that we had. So which gives me a good, basically the overall candidate list, and tells me information about if they're full-timers, applying for to be an intern, which college are they from, what's their GPA, etc. If I go to the summary tab, I also get a quick snapshot about the event itself. How many candidates are coming, how many schools are they coming from, what's the average GPA, and some war room information I can use later. So let's say I just interviewed a candidate called Candidate 1, and I want to input my notes about him. If I see at the candidate profile, I can already see the notes that somebody has inputted during the pre-screen phase. So taking a closer look at what Sam has left for this candidate, the candidate got a thumbs up. Sam says he's definitely a good tech candidate. But then if you look at the red flag, it says, went silent when they were stuck, which was worrying. So this is something that we encourage all next jumpers to do. Let's say you had a good interview with the candidate and you want to pass them to the next round, but there was something NQR about the candidate. So this is a way that we collect data points about them to make a decision. So I can quickly go into interview and input my notes. Interview type, let's say it's business practical that I just did. And I can give a rating from 1 to 4, which is similar to the feedback app. Also, depending on the interview type, it can be either a rating or a straight up thumbs up or thumbs down. So once I give the rating, I can input my notes and give a detail, write in detail about why I chose to give this rating to this particular candidate. Also, if you observe at the bottom, we have add a red flag, which was what I just touched upon, and also add on fire. So add on fire is the contrary of the red flag. It's about like if I had a great interaction with the candidate and I thought this interview went really well, and I want everybody to know that, oh, this candidate would be a great fit for NextJump. So I can add my notes and give an explanation as to why I thought that. So once I save my notes, it will directly reflect on the candidate's profile for everybody else to see. Another thing that we do at NextJump is 411 interactions. So basically, we don't want to just see how a candidate does in an interview setup. We also pay a lot of attention to how they are outside of the interview setup. So these include things like during the lunch or during the pre-event, any interactions throughout the interview process. So as you can see, Abhay left a comment about a great conversation that he had with this candidate during lunch. So similar to other interviews, it can be the thumbs down or a thumbs up. Basically, all these data points is what the war room takes into picture before they make the coachability score for the candidate. That's it from us. If you have any questions, we'll take it after all the demos. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel McLean. I work in this Boston office. I've been at NextJump for 10 years. Today, I'm going to walk you through our approach to recognition, tell you a little bit about the lessons that we've learned, and hopefully that sets you up to understand our technology. So really a background of why we made specific decisions that we did within our app. A little bit about my background. I have captained our recognition events before. We have an annual ceremony called the Avengers event, so I've captained that. I also work on our product team on Perks at Work. I work with our clients who are incorporating our technology into their companies. Part of the demo and today's presentation will include Sam, who's a software engineer. He owns the app, and so he's going to join in the second part of this. So moving on to the next slide. Thanks, Sam. So today, here's what NextJump's culture of recognition is about: servant leadership, recognizing the trait of helping others. This is pictures from our annual Avengers ceremony, which is an intense event. So our Avengers Award recognizes top steward leaders, servant leaders at NextJump, those who are the best at helping others for the year. So it's an annual award. This is the top honor at NextJump. So we invite everyone in the company to attend the ceremony, friends of the company, our clients, Academy alumni join us as well. So there's about 500 people in that room. The process is a few months long that leads to the ceremony. It's a peer nominated process. Essentially, who's on stage there is the winner. Actually, Christian, who's in this office, won last July. So the top three get announced. We surprise them. Their family appear on stage with them as well, sometimes flown from all over the world, in Christian's case, from Boston. It's a huge honor for the NextJumper, for the family. So on the culture tour, you learned about NextJump building a company to make our mothers and fathers proud. This award is really in honor of our mothers in terms of celebrating the characteristic of really helping others. So I point this out because today this is something that we're very proud of. It being our top honor, that this is where recognition is today. If you attend the ceremony, which I hope you all do, you're invited. It is, there's not a dry eye in the house at the end. It's very emotional. It's storytelling. Peers actually get up and read a speech about you. And so it really leads to a standing ovation by the time all three of them are called up. I tell this because kind of the next piece is that we weren't always like this. In fact, so I said I've been here for 10 years. The top honor when I started was actually called the President's Award. It was a cash prize awarded by Just Charlie, who was CEO at the time. And it was $10,000 for setting a new business milestone. So as a new employee coming in the handbook, it gave an example that Megan, who at the time was leading the merchant team, had won too. And I remember feeling like I'm never going to win this. This is new, implementing new sales processes, huge revenue goals met. And the second thing, just by saying a new business milestone felt really unattainable. I had no idea how I could get there. As the award described, it was $10,000, set a new business milestone. It was awarded randomly as an employee. We never knew when or how it was going to be awarded. It was in a staff meeting. They would kind of announce it. It was the monetary award. And it was really behind closed doors. So there was no peer involvement at all. It was a senior management decision. Another story is that we actually tried to progress this award to award an outcome in culture, so a new milestone within culture. That also didn't go well, only because we actually ended up awarding outcomes only. So we tell a story about an employee. Everyone is on a fitness team here. At the time when we were getting the initiative off the ground, no team had ever had everyone go to the gym. twice in a week. A team hit that milestone. That seemed really cool because we're making investments in fitness. So the captain of that team received $10,000 for getting his team to go to the gym twice a week. That seemed like an awesome thing to recognize. What the management failed to recognize was the process in which he got everyone to go. So members of the team were saying, well, you didn't really see that he emailed me maybe once an hour every day. There was sort of water cooler talk about, well, he kind of also got the award because they're trying to put him on he's a junior person on a management track. He's like the pet person. So it was not, although it was an awesome achievement, was not the way we wanted it to be perceived by the company. And so moving forward, what we've done is moved away from that President's Award. And this is sort of a distilling of our top lessons, everything we did wrong in recognition, what we changed to. So what we decided to do was not necessarily recognize the quarterbacks, the MVPs, through our recognition process, but actually recognize the linemen, so those who are helping others succeed. We believe that the MVPs are already compensated at the top level through their salary, through bonus structures, through other opportunities. But in our formal recognition, which I'll get into the different programs that we have, it's around helping others. The second thing is that we realized it can't just be a top-down approach and that management is picking all the recognition. And so we made it a crowdsourced or peer-to-peer process. And we found that actually if you can involve the peer-to-peers, the thank yous, that then leads to that standing ovation that I referred to at that Avenger ceremony. And finally, it's not just about intensity. So I'm not saying that you need to have this, ceremony once a year that everyone comes to. We found the key is actually the consistency. So understanding, baking rituals in, making recognition consistent, and really the storytelling. So that's been a key insight for us. So I'll just walk you through the next slide, please. Thanks. So this is just a visual of NextJump's recognition program. So going along this principle that we believe that you need to have consistency in your programs as well as some intensity. So consistently, we have a weekly recognition event called Coronitas. It's a campfire style. Everyone, 5 o'clock on Friday, gathers around locally per office, and they have an opportunity to call out any NextJumper that's helped them that week. So that's our weekly event. You guys are actually all joining us Friday at 4 o'clock for that event. We bumped it up an hour early. The second thing we have is a monthly event, so that's top 10. This is a simple question we asked, who has helped you succeed? And then we have the app that helps us run that program. The final thing we have is that Avenger. So this is just a neat diagram that shows the consistency, the weekly. You'll see throughout, it's asking that question, who's helped you, expressing gratitude, telling a story, built in weekly, monthly, yearly. The next slides are just visuals. So this is Coronitas, the Fridays at 5. Not only is it practicing gratitude, it's also storytelling. It's a great way to introduce new people quickly into the culture. By that storytelling allows them to quickly understand, okay, this is how I recognize others. And in many cases, they actually participate in that first Friday after just hearing 2 other people go and give a thank you. The next one is our top 10 process. So again, the key question that we found here, the change in our program, because we actually used to run top 10 10 years ago, again, when I started, you voted, it was a little black box. You weren't sure who it went to. You could actually thumbs up or thumbs down someone. And then in a staff meeting, it was just announced, okay, here are the 10. There was no ranking of the 10 or clarity on what happened, how many other votes there were. So what we did within the technology is allow you to vote for anyone. You're given points. Sam is going to walk you through this. But you can vote for anyone. The simple question is, who has helped you succeed? You practice telling a little story about it. And it's all transparent. So unlike the feedback app, this is attached to your name. We want it to be public on who is giving recognition, who's receiving recognition. And it's more than just the monetary. So Sam will walk you through. There is a small amount of points. We give everyone WOW points. and that's intentional. But beyond that, we also monthly in our staff meetings, the 10 who have won get called out. We have this poster printed up. We read it out. So everyone stands. We go through one by one, reading the stories. Those 10 are then invited to a CEO talk. They meet with Charlie and Megan. They get to ask any question they want. So they get some one-on-one time with some senior leadership. And they're also given an opportunity to spotlight someone else who they believe is behind the scenes and going unrecognized. So it's kind of that idea of paying it forward. I think Sam now is going to walk us through just a quick demo of the app. So hopefully some of those stories will give you examples of why we made these decisions within the app.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to give a quick demo of the app itself. So Rachel's kind of walked you through what it is. Just some background really quick. I've been here about 3 years. I'm a software engineer. Worked on a few different projects. Recently have worked on the Top 10 app, and I'm currently the owner of this. So as Rachel said, Top 10 is supporting this monthly ritual of recognition that we have. And again, as Rachel said, it's this continuing this tradition of recognizing those who've helped you succeed, not necessarily those who have done something that's produced a great outcome, but those who have helped you in some way to help yourself produce something or just be successful on your own. So this is the app. This is the kind of homepage which you come in on. And so what you're seeing right here immediately is the leaderboard for this current month. So everyone in the company is given 1,000 WOW points, which is $10 in value, to distribute to anyone else in the company as a way of saying thank you for some way that they're helping them to succeed. These points are of no value to yourself to keep them, so it's in yours and your coworkers' best interest to distribute them and thank people. And so what you're seeing here right now is that for this month, actually, Sagar is our current most recognized, most voted for, most points given employee. And you can see the other people falling down the leaderboard here. At the same time, you could view last month and see who was recognized for last month. You can also look at the cumulative for the year as well as cumulative for all time. And so if I come into here, I can select anyone in the list and see their profile and basically see some running total stats, but also see the votes that they have received and votes that they have given. So it's pretty feel-good stuff usually, because I mean, this is a very kind of positive thank you app, and people write similar to feedback, where you don't just write kind of objectively what they did, you write how they thanked you, and you kind of put a whole story around your vote to make it meaningful. And so coming down here, you can see usually pretty meaningful things and ways that Supriya has helped her colleagues. And so it's kind of warm, fuzzy feeling reading some of these. And in the same sense, you can also look at the story feed, which shows not just one person, but just like the cumulative running most recent votes that have been coming in. So you can see the amount of points given. I recognize it's quite small on the screen up here, but you can see the amount of points given and the story that was tied to that vote. And so if I am in the app and I have my points left over and I want to give them to someone to vote, similar to feedback again, you'll find this list of all the people in the company. I'm going to spotlight Aves here, who's one of our designers, who's helped us helped me personally on quite a few projects recently. And I'm going to say, okay, Aves, I'm going to give you a top 10 vote. How have you helped me succeed this month? I'm going to say, okay, let's say I have all my points left over. Let's say I'm going to give him 300 points. And I'm going to say, how has Aves helped me succeed? And I have a note pasted. So basically saying, thank you for not just helping my projects be awesome, but saying thank you for actually stepping up whenever I've reached out to you to help me with some project or some request. He's always gone back to me in a timely manner and been like excited to help me out and see my project be successful. So it's been awesome working with him. And so I'll write this out, cast my vote, and then that will just kind of go into the app, go into the feed, and now Aves will get a notification to say, oh, okay, someone's voted for you for top 10, and he can come in here and see what's going on. And so that will as well will be reflected in the leaderboard, and so now he's in here. And then, as Rachel said, at the end of each month, the people that are in the top 10 of this leaderboard will be recognized in various ways, including in front of the company, which is kind of pretty impactful and meaningful to be able to share how these people have helped their colleagues out in front of everyone. So that's pretty much it for the demo. I encourage you, if you're interested in kind of seeing a bit more in detail, everyone here at NextJump has this app on their phone. So if this was kind of hard to see, just reach out to anyone, maybe even at lunch tomorrow, and ask to kind of have a look. You can have a play around with it, but it's pretty exciting. So thank you. That's the demo. Again, questions will be at the end, but please ask questions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Henry, and this is Angela over here. I'm a software engineer here at NextJump. I've been here since 2010. And Angela is a director on our client services team. She's also been a lead for our evals process internally. So today you've heard a lot of different apps and a lot of different programs and technologies that we use here internally. I think in terms of feedback, we collect a lot of it. We start with developmental feedback, which we collect through the feedback app. Then we have more recognition-based feedback, which we collect through apps like Top 10. What I'm going to go through today is how we collect evaluative feedback and some of the technologies and programs that we have here at NextJump. But before diving in, it's kind of helpful to know where we came from as a company. At NextJump, we used to run performance evaluations very similar to a lot of companies. We would have a long form that employees would have to fill out annually. It would do a 360 review that would happen once a year, so not very timely. And then it would have a mix of questions about character, about skills, and about your results. And that was all kind of jumbled together in a really long format. The evaluations were also done on a 5-point system. So you'll notice like a subtlety in a lot of our apps is that we rate from 1 to 4. So there is no middle ground. But we used to have a 5-point system. So what we found was that a lot of people, when they were ranking for either themselves or for their subordinates, they would rank kind of in the middle. A lot of people would get we'd see a lot of 3s in the results there. And that's not really helpful if you're an employee trying to use this to develop. And a third point around where we came from with evaluations was that a lot of it was manual. So we used a lot of Word documents. We emailed them out. You would fill them out. You'd email them back to HR. They'd compile them. 2 to 3 months later, someone would review them. And then maybe half a year later, you may or may not get a bump in pay. So that was kind of where we were like several years ago. So where we are today is we started shifting our thought around how feedback happens for employees. Where you would originally only collect feedback about people and yourself once a year, we started creating we very, very deliberately decoupled developmental feedback from evaluative feedback. So what you're seeing in the app, like it's continuous feedback that you're getting through the feedback app, but then evaluations happened and that was a whole separate thing. This was deliberate because we found that more critical feedback can be given through evals when you decouple it from the continuous feedback. There are a couple reasons for that. So one, when feedback is linked to performance evaluations, peers and managers don't want to share the truth. There's some reasons for that as well. Feedback that you receive is generally ignored. So for example, this once a year event, I would do my self-evaluation, my manager would rank me, and then we sit in a room and we go back and forth around where I could develop. I wasn't really listening. I actually just wanted to know if I was going to get a pay raise or not. So that's like common behavior that we were finding. And so it wasn't helpful to actually use this as a mechanism to collect and share feedback about people. And third point here is around peers. As a peer, so we do collect peer evaluations. So I can leave a peer evaluation for Angela or for Sam or Rachel or anyone in the company. But when your feedback is tightly coupled to your pay or your promotions, it's really hard to be critical of your peers. And so we've made a very deliberate decision to decouple these two pieces of these two areas of feedback. So today where we are, we have a feedback app that we use to, in real time, collect candid feedback. This happens every day, every week on an ongoing basis and purely for developmental feedback. That's separate from our contribution evaluations, which happen twice a year, so every 6 months. And we collect information, we collect your contributions in 2 different dimensions. The first is your contribution to the business. So that could be hitting a sales goal, that could be working with a client, that could be creating a product, and that would be their contribution to the business. But then we also collect the second dimension, which is how you're deliberately practicing in culture. Culture we treat as a practice ground, and so it's how you're using that as a mechanism for personal growth and not just using it as a checklist of things that you need to do on a daily basis. So I'll go a little bit into the mechanics of how we run evaluations. Where it used to be like a 2 or 3 month process just for collection of the data, we've now streamlined it into about 2.5 hours to complete. So we break our evaluations into 3 different sections. We start with a self-evaluation. So I go in there and I rate myself. Then we have a peer evaluation. So I invite my peers to do the same for me. And then if you're a manager, you go through a manager evaluation as well. The self-evaluation takes 30 minutes. So again, we're collecting on 2 dimensions, your contribution to revenue, as well as how you practice in culture. The evaluations are pretty simple. You rate yourself 1 through 4. 1 means below expectations, 2 is meeting, 3 is exceeding, and 4 is far exceeding. You leave a comment to clarify some of the rating and add some color into why you've rated yourself that number. All of this is administered via a mobile app. So technology-wise, we've definitely moved way far past Word documents that we were doing a long time ago. Self-evaluations are fully transparent to the company. So that's interesting. What I write about myself, anyone can see, my peers, my manager, everyone. And once you've submitted your self-evaluation, employees are sorted by their rankings. So in the app itself, if I rank myself a 4-4, and I think I'm doing awesome, I show up in a list right at the top. So it invites people who, invites more criticism. Like if you show up at the extremes, it invites people to say like, no, I'm gonna knock you down a little bit. I don't think you're a 4-4. Or conversely, if you're at the bottom, if you rank yourself a 1-1, you're at the other extreme, and people might be like, I think you actually deserve more credit than you're giving yourself for your evaluation. So we use this as a natural mechanism to highlight people that are at the extremes. During the peer evaluation, so that's a 1-hour period where you're open to leave peer feedback for anyone. The nuances here are that peer comments are completely anonymous, so very similar to the feedback app. You can write a comment about a peer, and it's visible to the entire company, but your name is not tied to it. And also, next jumpers can rank and comment on any other peer. So I could rank someone who I work directly with. I could rank a manager. I could rank Charlie if I wanted to. The third step is around manager evaluations. So in this step, you're reviewing anyone that reports into you. And so at this point, you have a lot of different data points that you can refer to. You can refer to the employee's self-evaluation. You can use peer feedback that they've received. You can look at their historical trend over time as well, which I'll demonstrate. But these are all data points that you can use to do your assessment of your subordinates. We do find situations where managers tend to overrank or underrank some of their employees. So after all this is said and done, there is a senior review process that goes through the manager evaluations. And then we do give feedback to managers if they tend to overrank or underrank. So now I'll just talk through some of the technology that we do use for this. So here's one of the apps that we use. We call it the Eval app. It's in a little bit of a weird state because we're not collecting evaluations at this point, but I can demonstrate some of the features that are in the app. So this is my personal profile page. It has details about me, like what team I'm on, like how long I've been at NextJump. I can view my evaluation from past quarters, the past 6 months. So in 2017 for Q3 and Q4, I can see my ranking, and I can also view the comments that I left for myself or about myself. You'll also notice that there's a graph. So it shows the comparison between how I ranked myself versus how my manager ranked me. And it's helpful to be able to go through a history of work that I've done to kind of refresh my memory on like where I've been and where I'm going. And then I can also go in here and look at my manager evaluations, and then you can see like how my managers either agreed or didn't agree with my own self-evaluation. So everyone has their own personal profile. And like I mentioned, you can go ahead and you can also search for different people. So I'm going to go in here, and Angela is actually right here in this list over here. So we can pull up Angela and we can see how she's done as well. Feedback that she's received from her peers. And then we can click through here. We can also see feedback that she's left for herself. Okay, so we're going to jump back here. The only 2 takeaways that I'll leave here are that, so our biggest learnings were, 1, decoupling development from contribution has had a profound impact on the way that we run our business. We now view that development is an ongoing process at NextJump. It's not something that gets assessed once a year or twice a year. That's ongoing, and that's where the feedback app comes in. But evaluations are these more formal scheduled events, and they happen and measure your contribution to the company on a biannual basis. The second point is more frequent feedback is helpful. So we used to only do it once a year. At some point, we were doing evaluations 4 times a year, and that was the only way of getting feedback. But now that we have the feedback app, we've reduced evaluations to be done twice a year. But the general theme is just more feedback has been helpful for employees. It helps employees course correct sooner than later. So rather than waiting an entire year to know how I could perform better, how I could develop better, I now get this feedback on a more regular basis.